We know there's a Callisto Protocol 60 FPS mode. You can run that. They tweeted that out. But this quote makes me feel a little concerned. Like, wait a minute. Did you guys go for like that weird cinematic, slow, sludge-like game where everything moves really in slow motion, like stop motion? I don't know. Like, he's basically saying, Schofield said they deliberately chose to pace the game more deliberately, running it at 30 FPS. So is the 30 FPS performance, is the 60 FPS performance mode gonna mess with it? Is it gonna make it feel wrong, different, or is it literally just gonna be a frames per second doubler? Is it not actually gonna be a truly, next gen 60 FPS experience, or is it gonna feel like, oh no, yeah, this is totally fine? Guys, we need 30 more likes. Go through that morning ritual. Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome into everybody tuning in for Callisto Protocol gameplay hands-on previews, discussing some of the quotations from the previews. Right now, I'm asking about one that says they chose to pace the game around 30 FPS. Thank you, Darth Nihilus, for jumping back in as a member. That is worrying, says Cliffo, because if it's made for 30, then the 60 FPS mode will feel odd. Right? Like, are the enemy animations, are the movement choices, is the damage, is the combat, is any of that stuff going to feel funky, right? No concern after the footage I've seen. Is there true 60 FPS footage out there, Eugene, that we can look at? The dodge and the melee counter was solid. I thought so too. When I watched Games Radar video, I thought the same thing. I thought, ooh, I really liked that dodge. That seemed really fluid. That seemed really responsive. It seemed like it would be pretty intense to be in some of the up-close combat scenarios, to have, the enemies right on top of you. I think it's a non-issue. You'll get used to it after a bit of playtime, says Zuth. I don't know. I'll go visual versus frames for this one. So you would choose 30 FPS in this one for the more cinematic feel. I wonder how many people are going to do that. I know for a fact that there are people that like the 30 FPS for the more cinematic feel, because they tend to, in games like Plague Tale Requiem, I had people saying that to me. They're like, well, yeah, it looks better at this because of how, they have it set up. A lot of people have said that certain games just run and look better at 30. I don't necessarily agree with that at all. Eurogamer has a 4K 60. Yeah, Paul just put it in the Discord. Well, we'll check it in a minute. Did they do that because the game is cross-gen? Yeah, you know what? Barrier might be right. One of the reasons that this quote exists is because they might have been aiming at the cross-gen performance, right? Schofield said they deliberately chose to pace the game more deliberately twice in the same sentence. Schofield said they deliberately chose to pace the game more deliberately, running it at 30 FPS. So the 60 FPS mode is going to be some kind of an uptick, is what it sounds like to me. Let me pull up the Eurogamer vid, and let's take a peek at this thing. This thing is apparently 60 FPS, and we'll see if it affects anything in the game. Because according to Schofield, they pace this thing at 30. So I'm curious what that means. Cinematic, but you're playing a game. Well, that some games want to be cinematic, right? Now, one thing I noticed in this sequence, right? Oh, golly, get that off the screen. One thing I noticed in this segment when comparing it to the Dead Space remake footage is the liquid, the three-dimensional feel for the liquid. Now, this is where it's more of a hybrid of combat styles, right? So you'll notice he's just wailing on this guy, and then that appears, and he shoots it, and then he gets a weakness shot, and the guy goes down. Pretty sure the footage is PS5 too. Now you'll notice again, if you just look at it's hard to get freeze frames because they have motion blur on in the footage. Right? If we stop it... No, I want to get the sludge. I want to get the sludge from that machine. If we stop it with that machine kind of moving, you can definitely tell these are three-dimensionally rendered, you know, high-detailed liquid animations. You compare that to some of the stuff we saw in Dead Space Remake, and it's not even a fair comparison. They have these little animated things coming out for whoever's talking. I am not obviously letting their audio come through. Can you get more graphics at 30 FPS? Usually when you run something at 30 FPS, you get much better lighting and a higher resolution. They'll up the resolution and then they'll do ray tracing. Like this section here is another section where you're going to notice a lot of details, and I think the lighting really, really shines in that little crawl through section that they did. Lighting is another key factor in these games. You've got to make the player feel like, you know, at any point something could kind of come out. Thank you, Phantom Phoenix, for hitting a 3-month milestone. Welcome back in, 3 months already. Here, I think you get a nice blend. I noticed this during the game's radar footage. Here, you're going to get a nice blend of the pipe details up here, and then down here, this thing is just caked in crap. And then watch the animations for the liquid as he crawls through. Oh, they chopped it. That was that you got to see more of that crawl through in the game's radar footage. Maybe they'll go back. They might go back to it. Good environmental use of lighting and fog and different things. Almost 400 people here. Could we get 200 likes, please? Good night. The cringy asking for likes thing. Please go through the ritual when you come in, my faithful homies. If people care about the cinematic feel, the devs should just add a 24 FPS mode. Right, Paul? Yeah, let's get some Lono dope emotes in the chat, some thumbs up to remind everybody to hit that thumbs up. For games like this, lighting is huge. Yeah, you've got to have good lighting, because you can tell. And that right there is another example of, I just want you to watch this animation of this guy popping up out of the ground, right? Watch the animation. You see? It just, there's something more fluid about this game. There were so many things in the animations in Dead Space. Like, look how many frames of animation there are to this. Yo, Jay Beans is going to gift a membership to somebody. Let's go. Let's see some gifteds there. Lou Cypher is going to grab the gifted from Jay Beans. Look how many frames there are to the animation of him coming up out of the ground. It's just, there's so many more frames to everything. It feels more ragdoll. It feels more visceral. Skill Up thinks visceral is one of the most overused terms in gaming. You kind of have to use visceral for games like this. There we go, guys. Thanks for 200 likes. Thanks for smashing the thumbs up emotes in chat. We greatly appreciate it. See, there's the dodge. Did you see the dodge? I also like the dodge. It feels organic. That doesn't feel like a video game. That feels like a cutscene. Watch this dodge. Woof. Wham. Like, I absolutely love that. That feels so fluid and on the fly. That doesn't feel like a pre-scripted thing. Do you know what I'm saying? The reaction to contact is pretty amazing. Yeah, the way that he interacts with the environments, the way that he interacts with the enemies, he must have hated Visceral Game Studio then. Yeah, anytime you had to talk about Visceral, that's right. Now, here's where you're going to start to notice guns are not an easy solution. Watch how much he has to shoot this guy. Did you see that? Just watch. Watch. A shoulder shot, probably a headshot. No, nothing. Here comes another one in the stomach, another one in the chest, and then he's getting a nasal cleansing. Yeah, this is definitely PS5 footage because he's hitting triangle there. And here is where you get into a 2v1, bit of a 2v1. Oh, and see, they're cutting it. They chop the footage up quite a bit. The game's radar just kind of let that footage roll. Here again, you're seeing the combination of the melee and the guns. You're not just using one solution. It's not one size fits all. Excuse me. It's not a one size fits all thing, which I appreciate. I noticed the blood splatter here. Little faux pas, just a teeny little faux pas is the blood splatter from the combat looks so good, doesn't it? It's like all over the desk. And then He turns on the monitor, and the monitor has, like, it's perfectly clean. It's like a windshield wiper went across it. I mean, that's a minor gripe, but still, I thought it was funny. I was like, man, that screen is awfully clean. Is it going to run with 60 FPS? Yes, we have been told by the official Twitter account for Callisto Protocol there will be a 60 FPS mode.